It's 7:20 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Thanks for joining us today. My good pal Bob Weiner, a friend of the show, knows the ins and outs of Washington as a credentialed White House and Congress national columnist with more than 400 pieces in major papers, including our own Naples Daily News, and 6 years as a senior White House staffer and 16 years on Capitol Hill. Bob's been a spokesman for drug czar and four-star General Barry McCaffrey, who we've had on this show. Was chief of staff for the House Aging Committee and Chairman Claude Pepper of Florida, spokesman for the House Government Operations Committee and Chairman John Conyers of Michigan, and for Congressman Charlie Rangel of New York. He was also legislative assistant to Ed Koch of New York and political aide to Senator Ted Kennedy of Massachusetts. And Bob, good morning. Welcome to the show. All I can say is name dropper.
Well, Dave, thanks for all that. But you know, my favorite part of the bio that you didn't mention is speaking to the Jefferson Jackson dinner that you hosted in Naples.
Yeah, that's true. I was asked to do that. You know, I'm a host for hire. That's one of the many things that I do. And listen, I understand you were on, of all things, ABC TV, but not here, but in Australia yesterday.
Yeah, everybody in Australia and London and the English-speaking world, aside from the United States, knows that I actually have worked with Hilllary. It's kind of funny. So I'm thrilled to be on Southwest Florida's #1 show,
there you go.
Dave Elliott show.
There you go.
And to actually let America know that I actually have worked with Hillary Clinton.
And in what capacity did you work for her?
With her in the White House for 6.5 years.
The drug czar.
Not only as a spokesman for the drug czar, but you remember I'm the one who the New York Times credited, Dave, as leading off the parade of showing how Ken Starr overreached against all the Clinton staffers. And then after I went out on the courthouse steps and said, this is Big Brother at its worst, everybody else went out on the courthouse steps and did it. So I've worked closely with her, and Hillary joked the day after I did that, we had a White House event on inaugurating the new deputy drug czar. And Hillary came up to me, and we took a picture, and he said, Bob, if we'd done this before you were subpoenaed, it would have been proof.
Did you happen to see the Saturday Night Live sketch on over the weekend of the fake Hillary launch? It was.
I did, and the one the week before, too. They're having a lot of fun. They actually brought Daryl Hammond in and brought him in
to do Bill.
Bill Clinton coming in. And everybody's trying to say Bill Clinton is baggage. Yeah, baggage. He left office with 70% popularity, the most popular president in the history of the polling, and he had 23 million jobs and didn't have any wars and balanced the budget. So if that's baggage, I want more of it.
Well, he had 100% approval rating among the interns, but we'll move on. we'll move on.
Dave, only in certain places.
Yeah, well, I suppose that's probably true. In fact, the funny line he used on Saturday Night Live was, if they'd had cameras in the White House when I was there, I'd have been arrested. Yeah. Which I thought was amusing. All right, so I noticed yesterday that MSNBC, after the announcement, went immediately to their syndicated show, Caught on Camera, while Fox News spent the entire afternoon beating up Hillary, and CNN spent the entire afternoon not being sure exactly what their position was on anything. So the announcement is official. As CNN put it on their website yesterday, she told us what we already knew. She's running for president. Is it a foregone conclusion that she will not have a primary?
Well, no, she will. O'Malley and Webb, Chafee and Bernie Sanders will all run against her, but she's and maybe Biden, although people are right saying they think he won't run. But he's 50 up on all of those. She's 50 up on all of those. And on the Republican side, she's 10 or 15 up on Jeb, on Rand Paul, on Walker, Rubio, on all of them.
Well, not necessarily in Florida, though. Not necessarily in Florida. You're looking at...
No, you pick your states. Of course, in somebody's home state, I saw that Rubio and Jeb are maybe 5 points. Of course in Florida. But, I mean, pick your dynamics. Everybody's saying Hillary doesn't have the same demographics as Obama. Yeah, that's right. In fact, she's ahead in West Virginia, which Obama lost. She's ahead in Arkansas. So there's different dynamics. But the polling, Dave, shows that Hillary's got a projected right now 240 projected electoral votes of the 272 you need, and the Republicans, any of them, only have about 140. She's 100 up on the demographics, and the reason is because, as Obama said, and these are his words, we're good at presidential elections, we're terrible at the off-year elections. So, you know, we're going toward the presidential election now, and the Republicans don't know what to do on the Hispanic side. and maybe Rubio is a little bit of a help on that one.
Well, let me ask you about the you talked about the Bill baggage. Let's talk about the Hillary baggage for a minute, because there certainly is some. There's Benghazi. There's the emails. There's the health. There's the health issue, which is not getting a lot of play, but it's out there. And
all right, those are the three that Reince Priebus, who's running around, very famous now, the chair of the RNC. Suddenly, he's the designated hitter, and he said Hillary's surrounded by scandal. Benghazi. These are the points I made on Sky and on Australia and all of that. That you know it took a year after Benghazi and 2 years after Hillary requested full funding for embassy security, and that's a point that nobody's making. That the Republicans, and I remember getting the press release from the chair of the Republican Foreign Relations Committee in the House, we're now doing full funding for embassy security. Yeah, only as a diss because Hillary had asked for it 2 years earlier. So they finally got around to that. On health care, and by the way, Reagan lost hundreds in Lebanon, Bush lost 3,000 in 9/11. So things happen in the real world, and then you don't blame Bush or Reagan for that. You don't blame Hillary because some Al-Qaeda nuts went after people in Benghazi. You just don't blame her, and then you take the security that she should have had, that you would have had, that she wanted beforehand. On health care, what are we going to give away 16 million new people on health care? The Republicans have no plan. The main point is, and then what was the other? You mentioned the third one.
Well, the health.
The email.
Colin Powell. Yeah.
Colin Powell erased all of his emails in his fury over the build-up to the Iraq war that he was lied to, and said that the information he gave at the UN was the worst mistake he ever made in his life. He erased all of his emails on that when he went out to the UN and said these were nuclear weapons, and it turned out they were harmless aluminum vacuum tubes, if everybody remembers that little photo show at the UN. So he erased all of his emails, and every Secretary of State had private emails. So those are non-issues, and if Reince Priebus thinks that by saying that Hillary's surrounded by scandal and by victimizing the Clintons you're going to get anywhere, that stuff backfires.
And do you think? But don't you think everything from Vince Foster on forward is going to be brought out? She said.
I hope so.
She said
because it goes real well when you victimize the Clintons, and it backfires because you make them victims. So if that's their strategy, instead of an economic plan, and Hillary is right and Bill is right, and the Democratic side, that, it's the Republicans' tax breaks for the rich and refusal to do a minimum wage that has caused the income disparity that has gone nuts. And it's tenfolded over the last 30 years, and that is a serious problem in America, is wage stagnation.
Yeah.
And that's an issue that Hillary can jump on. The Republicans' refusal to do a minimum wage for the first real time in 30 years in terms of real dollars is unbelievable, and their refusal to do infrastructure jobs that CBO and CRS, the Congressional Budget Office and the Library of Congress, say would be 1 million jobs and another full point down on unemployment. The fact that they refuse to do that because it has the name of Obama on it, the fact that they refuse to do that for the first time in any administration in history. I've been in Congress, worked there for 22 years, and time after time there was bipartisanship on infrastructure jobs and infrastructure and unemployment. It is unbelievable. They have no economic plan other than tax breaks for the rich, which has caused the problems. So those are going to be terrific issues that Hillary has to run on, in addition to being the first woman president ever.
All right, let's talk about one other thing. I happened to read Maureen Dowd's column yesterday in the New York Times, and she's a pretty reliable liberal, I think it's fair to say, but she was not at all complimentary about Mrs. Clinton, and in fact at one point referred to the amount of money that she planned to raise, $2.5 billion or spend, as obscene. Do you think that $2.5 billion, number one, is a reasonable number for her to expect to spend? And number two, do you think it is an obscene amount of money?
Well, hey, I wanted to get in early, so when I got the first email, I sent $250, and then I figured I can say for the rest of the campaign, I did it already. So I'm. So, but that is such a false issue. the Clinton Foundation, which has been doing amazing things on AIDS and illnesses across the world. This from the people that gave you and forced the Supreme Court's 5-4 personnel, that kind of judge, to do Citizens United and allow anonymous money into campaigns. And they take this anonymous Koch brother and other money, and they spend it and have this conflict of interest on pharmaceuticals and
I'm talking about the $2.5 billion.
Guys?
Bob, the $2.5 billion that she says she's going to spend to win this race. Isn't that an obscene amount of money?
But it's necessary. It's the law. And what do you think that Jeb Bush is going to try to spend, or whoever it turns out to be?
I don't know, but I was shocked when I heard that amount.
Jeb Bush has been raising $1 million fundraisers, 100,000 minimum dinners already, and he's not even announced.
Yeah.
So it is obscene on both sides. But the hypocrisy of saying Clinton money when they're the guys who brought you Citizens United and anonymous unlimited money in campaigns, to me, is remarkable.
All right, well, we have to leave it there at 7:30, and we're out of time, but it seems like we just get rolling, and we have to call it a day. All right, Bob, always appreciate your comments and your insight, and I'm sure as this campaign rolls on, we'll be chatting again. Thanks again for your time today.
Thank you so much for having me. Love doing your show, Dave, and you.
My pleasure. It's 7:31 on the Dave Elliott Show, and we'll be back after this.